Good morning. This lesson is for my Integrated 1 class and my Honors Integrated 1 class. But before I get started, I want to say I hope that everybody is doing all right out there. I don't know the title of this lesson. It doesn't matter, but what does matter are our goals. We have two goals. We're going to create rules for rotations and we're going to create rules for reflections. Now, write this down. We're going to learn how to switch signs in these rules. It's a really important concept about this lesson, so make sure you write that down. Alright, so for this lesson, the transformations are rigid, which is code for they stay the same shape, same size. And we are going to focus on how to write rules for rotations and reflections, alright? So I have an example of a rotation for the first goal. This is my pre-image, this is my image, and I know this is my image or where I map to because I have primes. A prime, B prime, and C prime. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write out how A goes to A prime, B goes to B prime, and C goes to C prime. And hopefully we recognize a pattern in how the pre-image points map to the image points. And then from there, we'll be able to create our rule that represents a rotation of taking this triangle and rotating it actually 90 degrees about the origin. All right, but again, I want you to see how we can change signs of numbers in a rule and maybe switch coordinates. Okay, so here we go. So I know that A at -5, 1 maps to A prime at 1, 5. I know that B at -2, 5 maps to B prime at 5, 2. And I know that C at -2, 1 maps to C prime at 1, 2. All right, so let's see if we can distinguish a pattern what's happening with these numbers here. For the most part, I have the same numbers. What's changing, though, is the order of the numbers. Here I have a -5 and a 1, which switches to a 1 and a 5, positive 1 and a positive 5. A -2 and a 5 switches to a 5 and a positive 2. And a -2 and a 1 switches to a 1 and a positive 2. So what looks like what's happening is the x's and the y's switch, and when the x's switch to the y position, the sign changes. So it looks like the x's and y's switch. And the sign of the x coordinate changes. All right, so our rule is going to be xy, which is what we start with. And remember, they're switching, so the rule is going to state that xy becomes yx. But I need to account for the change of the sign. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a minus there. So when I add a minus, that tells me I switch signs, right? The negative changes the sign. So if I was to plug -5, 1 into this, the 1 goes where the y is, right? The -5 goes where the negative x is, but I have a negative there. So negative is going to make that a positive. Make sure that we do that when we're dealing with this. I want to make sure I stayed on there, and it looks like I did. Okay, good. All right. So let me erase the first goal. I'm going to come back with the second goal that deals with the reflection. Again, notice how I switch signs. I add a negative to that. So let me clean up the board, erase everything, and I'll be back. I'm back. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about our second goal. And our second goal is to create rules for reflections. Now, this is a reflection over the y-axis. And you know, I should have wrote on the first problem that this was a rotation about the origin. So I'm going to make up for my first mistake and describe what this is. This is a reflection over the y-axis. Now, notice now I'm starting on the right because these don't have primes while the left side has primes. So I took my triangle and I reflected it over the y-axis to the side. On the original or the pre-image, the point A is furthest from the y-axis, and when I reflect it, its image, A prime, is also the furthest from the mirror. So we're going to, it's called, oh my gosh, I forgot the name. So distance will be respected. So whatever was the closest will stay the closest. Whatever was the farthest will stay the farthest, all right? So we're reflecting. So just like before, what we're going to do is we're going to list the points and hopefully we can find a pattern. So list the points and find a pattern. I should have also wrote this for the first one, so it would be a really good idea for you to add that to that first example. I apologize. All right, so I know that A, which is at 5, 2, maps to A prime, which is at negative 5, 2. I know that B, which is at 2, 5, maps to B prime, which is at negative 2, 5, and I know that C, which is at 2, 1, maps to C prime, which is at negative 2, 1. All right, and so hopefully from here we can find a pattern. Well, unlike the previous example, the numbers stay in the same order. But what is happening, like the previous problem, is signs are changing. So it looks like the value of my x is going from a positive to a negative. So the rule is going to be, if I start off with an ordered pair, it's going to now become the negative version of that x value, and the y value stays the same. So remember, this is how I show it change the sign, right? So, for example, if I was to pick a random point off of my pre-image, like the point 2, 2, actually that's not a very good point, like the point 2, 3, and I plug it into my rule, I know that the x value has to change sign, so it's going to now become negative 2, the y value stays the same, and it becomes 3. And if I was to graph negative 2, 3, you would see that I would get to the same spot. So I'm going to go ahead and end this lesson here. Again, I hope everybody is doing all right out there. Have a good day, everybody. Bye-bye.